Welcome, everybody. This is the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley. Every week, we bring you a program, and our goal is to bring you programs that focus on the things that we love to focus on, which are education, entrepreneurship, and innovation. As we see it, there is so much overlap between those ideas and what happens in Rotary, in humanitarian service and service to others and service above self. And so as we began to look at different kind of possibilities for the programs this fall, one of the things that we wondered was, how can we get some really good programs that are right there between Rotary and wildly cool service happening outside of Rotary? And I don't think we could have ended up with a better topic than we've got today in talking with Steve Werner about Partnering for Peace. The organization is one for which he is the current president, and he is also a past Peace Corps volunteer in the countries of South Korea and Georgia. That would be the country of Georgia. And people in Georgia, you may think of yourselves as a country, but we're talking about the other one, at least the local Georgia. So with that, I would like to say, Steve, thank you very much for taking time to present to us today. We're excited to have you here, and I would ask you to enlighten us over the next 12, 15 minutes about cool things that are going on with Partnering for Peace.
Well, thanks, Rustin. Thank you, everybody. And it's a pleasure to be here and talk about Partnering for Peace. It's actually an organization that is comprised of Rotarians who served in the Peace Corps. So as in the introduction, Rustin mentioned that I served in both South Korea, which was about 2-3 years after college, and that was a 2-year assignment. Actually, with training, it was 27 months. And then just about 2 years ago, I did what Peace Corps now calls Peace Corps Response, which is 6, 8, or 12-month assignments. And Peace Corps Response was intended to meet the needs of a number of countries for more highly technically qualified volunteers. A lot of the people that serve for 2 years, not all, but a lot, are generalists, and they they're teachers, or they are community organizers or doing something along those lines. And then Peace Corps Response are generally people with higher level skills. So it's a great way to continue service as a Rotarian as well, either taking a break from your career like I did 2 years ago, or maybe you're recently retired and you're thinking about some things you can do while you're still in good health, and you want to use your technical skills that you've developed over the years. So the concept for Peace Corps, for Peace Corps and Rotary to partner, which is this first slide, is that some of us in the Denver area, it's actually District 5450, we were at a district conference, and somehow about 20 of us congregated around the bar. That's kind of typical for Rotarians and typical for returned Peace Corps volunteers also. And when we started seeing that, oh wow, there's 20 of us here at the district conference who all served in Peace Corps. And we started talking about how similar Peace Corps and Rotary service is, and how we're focused on the same types of programs in the field overseas, and also the same type of community service projects in our home communities. So we started talking to our Rotary leaders and our Peace Corps leaders, and found that they were very interested in the concept of service. And I'm going to just go through slides if I can. Let's see if I can get it to work. Okay, there we go. Next slide. So the Peace Corps mission, as you can see, has a lot of similarities to Rotary. We want to help people of interested countries in meeting their need for trained volunteers. We help promote a better understanding of Americans on the part of the people served, and we help promote a better understanding of other peoples on the part of Americans. Of course, our Rotary four-way test, and by the way, I should have mentioned that I'm a member of the Rotary Club of Denver Southeast, and I'm dressed fairly casual right now because we just finished our big fundraiser, which is a golf tournament, dinner, and auction. So when I'm done presenting with you tonight, I'm going to catch up to the rest of the dinner and auction because I just came off the golf course. So I'm sorry if I look a little disheveled for you. But anyway, going back to the concept of the partnership, both Peace Corps and Rotary have very similar ideals. The whole concept of service above self is exactly why Peace Corps was served, which is the tagline under the second sentence there, to promote world peace and friendship by fulfilling three goals. So we're called Return Peace Corps Volunteers because Sarge Shriver, who is the first director of Peace Corps, felt that we would always be Peace Corps volunteers. We just returned from our overseas assignments. So for newly returned volunteers, Rotary service is perfect. It's a continuation of service that Sarge really believed in and felt was the underpinning of Peace Corps and what Peace Corps volunteers should do when they return home. So going back to the discussions we had at the District 5450 conference, when we got the strategic plans of both Rotary and Peace Corps, and both Peace Corps and Rotary at that time had just created new strategic plans, you could have taken Peace Corps' name out of the Rotary strategic plan and vice versa and inserted Rotary, or again, vice versa, you could have taken Peace Corps' name out, Rotary's name out and inserted Peace Corps. So you can see our Rotary area of focus, and then on the right side of the screen, you can see what Peace Corps area of focus is. So it's very similar interest when it comes to strategies to how we're going to try to make life better for people around the world. So the strengths of this partnership is that there's mission alignment. We share the concept that the local approach is best, that we like bottom-up structures and projects. We share sector area priorities, which were those on the area focus, and Peace Corps' program priorities. We have complementary assets, meaning skills and geographies. Obviously, Rotary is in more countries than Peace Corps, but Peace Corps is in about 70 Rotary countries. So there's a lot of opportunity to do well. And like I served in South Korea initially, way back when, and so obviously Rotary's in South Korea. So there's still a lot of South Korean Rotarians who remember Peace Corps. So there's still an opportunity for those of us who served in Korea to partner with South Korean Rotarians. And so there's many other opportunities for collaboration. So here's some of the opportunities for engagement. So direct service means that we could do service together, meaning Rotary Club could help a currently serving Peace Corps volunteer in a country, or Rotary Club could work closely with a returned Peace Corps volunteer group. So I'm also past board chair of the Peace Corps Alumni Association, and we have a local Peace Corps affiliate group in almost every major city, including the Bay Area of California, Colorado, New York City, Washington, D.C. And in many places, we have several Peace Corps groups in a given state. So a lot of the Peace Corps, returned Peace Corps volunteer groups, like here in Denver, they just do a lot to help new refugees get settled in the community. And a lot of our Rotary clubs in Denver area also work on refugee resettlement issues. So it's natural that we would work together. Overseas, a lot of Peace Corps volunteers find that at their schools or their villages, there's a need for safe drinking water, proper sanitation, or they want to improve literacy skills or build a library. So Rotary clubs have partnered with Peace Corps volunteers to do a number of those things. The second point on the slide that says pre-departure, that means that we're encouraging new volunteers before they even leave to start their training to connect with with a Rotarian or a Rotary club, so that there's a connection made even before they get to their countries. In-service collaboration means that after volunteers get to their country and they go through training, before they actually leave their training program and go to their sites, there's usually a in-service conference. And that's a perfect time for Rotary clubs in a country to connect with those volunteers that just at the very end of their training regimen and before they go to their sites. And then again, I had already mentioned how Rotary clubs and Rotarians can work with returned Peace Corps volunteers. Now, Rotary clubs, have found over the years, are really interested in what Peace Corps volunteers have done in their service. And we say within the Peace Corps alumni network that a lot of times you come home, people ask, "Oh, how was it? What did you do? What was it like to live in another country?" And you start talking, and before you know it, they're kind of bored and their eyes glaze over. But that doesn't happen with Rotarians. Rotarians really are interested in the world. So Rotary clubs can be a great source of support to newly returned volunteers. But likewise, newly returned volunteers can be great candidates to become members of Rotary. As a matter of fact, here in the Denver area, we have a club that meets in the downtown area, well, downtown Denver. And this club was approximately 20 members. It was a morning club. It wasn't the big downtown club, like most big cities, the downtown luncheon clubs are the big clubs that have the oldest history. But this other club that meets in downtown Denver had 20 members. And then they started a satellite or evenings group, and they started with 15 members, and they were all returned Peace Corps volunteers. And this group is going gangbusters. They're very enthusiastic. They totally understand Rotary and embrace it. Most of them had relatives who were Rotarians. So this morning club that's called the Denver Lodo Club, in effect, almost doubled their membership in one fell swoop because they created a satellite group. Now I know for this, for your EWASH club, that may not be something that you can pull off as easily. However, EWASH service is another form of service for returned volunteers who might have jobs or be in smaller communities where they can't find Rotary. So we can promote EWASH club service to a lot of newly returned volunteers as this partnership grows. So here are some pictures that kind of highlight the activities that relate to direct service, pre-departure, in-service collaboration, etc. One thing I want to say, though, is that in most university campuses and in most larger cities, you're going to find a Peace Corps recruiter. And we've been working closely with Peace Corps agency out of Washington, D.C. to try to connect these Peace Corps recruiters with Rotary clubs, because they can be the ones that can let, and after they get permission, of course, from an applicant, they can ask the applicant, would you like to connect with a Rotary club who would like to work with you as you go through your 2-year service? So the Peace Corps recruiters are staff members of Peace Corps, and their job is to recruit new Peace Corps volunteers. So they would be another source of support to even the EWASH clubs to talk about volunteers that are just going to start their service or just returning to their service. So Rustin, also give me a couple minutes heads up when I get too close to work. But I did want to also touch on the fact that Rotarians can make really great Peace Corps volunteers, and we've seen many, many examples of that. Peace Corps has had a booth at the Atlanta conference and at the Toronto conference. Peace Corps regulations wouldn't allow them to go to Hamburg because they wouldn't meet as many American Rotarians. But Peace Corps will be back at the Hawaii convention. And okay, thank you, Rustin. And so we're encouraging Rotarians to seek out Peace Corps service as well. So a lot of what Peace Corps volunteers do is capacity building. I touched on the fact that volunteers that are generalists usually serve for 2 years, but Peace Corps response are people with higher level skills. And So I did the 2-year service in South Korea. Then 2 years ago, I did the Peace Corps response in the country of Georgia. I was assigned to the National Ministry for Youth and helped the staff there with helping to build their programs that would engage their youth in job creation and volunteerism and things like that. So I'm going to go back to the last slide. What we have already in place is what we call a toolkit. So on our Partnering for Peace website, anybody could go there and look at things like the fact sheet that describes the partnership. You could get sample PowerPoint presentations. You can get posters or sample letters that you could use if you wanted to reach out to volunteers in the Silicon Valley area. So now at Peace Corps headquarters, we have a liaison. His name is Ted Adams. He's a great guy. He does a lot to support this partnership from the Peace Corps side. And then we have another staff person at Rotary headquarters who's our liaison. That's Ingrid Schwab. And likewise, Ingrid is terrific to work with, very helpful. So what we've found is that, say, a Rotarian individually or club might ask, how can I connect with a Peace Corps volunteer in a given country? Because I'd like to see if any volunteers there would like to support our service project. Well, Ted could help you connect with the Peace Corps office in that country, who then would reach out to the volunteers. Likewise, if you know a Peace Corps volunteer that wants to connect with the Rotary Club, Ingrid could help with that. So we're lucky that we have 2 staff liaisons, one for each agency. So I'll just kind of wrap up here because I think I'm at the end of my time, and then allow for questions from anybody that's logged on.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Steve. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to go ahead and stop sharing there, we'll also
Sure.
try to get that information out as a part of the links to follow. I've added a couple since you started, including the Peace Corps Response Program and the NorCal Peace Corps Association for all of our local members here with the Rotary Club of Silicon Valley.
That's great. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. So, so a little applause there from Shags, and I'll introduce our 2 members who are on call. Shag Shagrin here in the Bay Area. Actually, both are in the Bay Area, as well as Farheen Abbasi, who we are also celebrating because she just took her MCAT exam and hopefully did very, very well. Way to go, Farheen. So with that, I'd like to see if Shags or Farheen would like to start us off with a comment or a question.
No, just not so much a question, just a comment, because Rotary's been around since 1904?
05.
05. I was close. Was when he got the idea. And Peace Corps started in the 60s. So what took so long?
Well, there were precursors of the Peace Corps, and it was being promoted by Hubert Humphrey. Farheen, you may not remember Hubert Humphrey, but some of the rest of us might. And he was a wonderful global leader, in addition to having served as a vice president. But he talked about something like the Peace Corps for a long time, and he was friends with Sarge Shriver, and the idea then was picked up by Sarge, who talked to President John F. Kennedy when he was just running for president. President Kennedy made that one of his ideas that he was going to work on if he was elected. And then, of course, President Kennedy was elected, and that was the first thing that he did as president, was create the Peace Corps.
What I mean is, it took so long for Rotary and the Peace Corps to connect and say, hey, common mission.
Yeah.
Let's work together.
Both leaders, meaning the Rotary president at the time, which was Ron Burton, and our general secretary, John Yuko, were very enthusiastic. The Peace Corps director at the time is Carrie Hessler-Radelet. That name may or may not ring a bell with you. But Carrie had 4 family members who were Rotarians: her grandfather, her uncle, her brother. She could not join Rotary until she finished her finished as Peace Corps director, but as soon as she finished, she joined the Washington, D.C. club. And so the leadership was very enthusiastic, but with staff turnover in both organizations and the general councils wanting to sign off on what a memorandum of understanding meant, what obligations it required, it just seemed to take a long time to get through all the other layers underneath our leaders. So it was a little bit of frustration, but it's growing quite a bit, and everybody's very pleased with the partnership.
Excellent. And how long has the organization actually been in place?
Well, the partnership has been in place for about 5, almost 6 years. The Partnering for Peace is an organization we created solely to promote the partnership. We don't raise money for our own projects. We did not want to take money away, so to speak, from Rotary clubs or Peace Corps volunteers that needed funds for their projects. So we just acted as a broker to try to connect both Rotary clubs and Peace Corps volunteers. And so we can help with ideas to raise money. We can reach out to other groups, but we don't raise money for ourselves. But we do have members, and they are Rotarians who served in the Peace Corps, and we ask them to then promote this partnership in their districts. So going back to your question, Shags, both organizations are pretty big. They have a lot of things on their plate, and it's not always the first thing that comes to mind is a partnership. But now that it's kind of front and center, it's really growing a lot.
I'm glad it has. And as you said, yes, there's a lot of turnover every year, July 1st, as you know.
Yeah. And with Peace Corps, staff can only serve 5 years. That was one of Sarge Shriver's requirements. He didn't want Peace Corps to be a typical DC agency, and that's not a knock on other agencies, but he thought to keep it innovative and fresh, the staff should not serve more than 5 years.
Very cool.
Thanks for the history. That's really good. I love it.
Steve, thank you so much for your presentation. It's really interesting, for me to learn more about not only the partnership, but more about the Peace Corps, especially since, I'm not sure if you know, but one of our members, Cecilia, is in Ethiopia right now, doing a Peace Corps mission. Yeah. Which is really exciting for us. Right. And through that, I've gotten to learn more about what Peace Corps is. And it honestly inspired me to one day want to do something like that, because I think that'd be really fun, especially if I'm a doctor. So, but I think that something that I am really curious about is that so I have a few friends who have done the Peace Corps, and they're my age. Is there any way? Because unfortunately, Rotary membership, especially for young folks, is not really going up, right? There's this disconnect between the folks, older folks versus younger folks in Rotary. Is there any kind of, but I've also heard that, people going into the Peace Corps are younger, like right after college or something like that. Like, is there a way to tap into that in order to get more members, or at least more of a crosstalk between the two organizations?
Sure. Yes, exactly. When we started talking with both agencies and with other Rotarians and our Return Peace Corps volunteer groups, it was all about that. Rotary is a great place for newly returned volunteers to continue their service, but also Peace Corps would benefit from the experience of Rotarians as business people and people that are active in their communities. We have a lot of terrific experience that we can bring to Peace Corps. And since you're going to be a doctor, I'll just tell you briefly that one of our Partnering for Peace members is a member of the Chicago One Club. He served in Senegal, and while in Senegal, he saw a need for cervical cancer screening in southeast Senegal. And he started this project, and he helped organize Peace Corps volunteers and doctors in Senegal. Then he came back, became a doctor himself, went through the medical school, joined Rotary, and he's continued this project, and it's gotten bigger and bigger, and they've expanded to more and more regions. And Peace Corps, all through that time, has continued to provide volunteers who help with education, screening, because they can speak the language and being foreigners, they attract some attention. And so, but they do a lot of training of local health professionals, both nurses, health promoters. So it's a really neat project and a great example of how both Rotary and Peace Corps can work together. And
Yeah.
so Andrew Dyken is his name. And
I would
he,
love to, yeah, get more information about that, because actually that's
yeah,
something that's really important to me.
yeah,
I actually want to go into gynecology. That's my dream. So,
oh, great.
wow, that's
Yeah.
really phenomenal. Yeah.
I will send you a link and some information, but some of that is again on our website at Partnering for Peace when you look at the list of projects that we've cataloged. So we have, let's see, I might have lost count because I don't get to the site every day, but we have over 75 projects that we've uncovered that Peace Corps and Rotary have done together, worth over $500,000 as far as how much money was committed to the projects both through Peace Corps and Rotary. So.
Thanks.
I'll add that on the Partnering for Peace site, when you go to the, for our members, when you go to what we do and news and projects, you'll see that there is a nice piece on the side that allows you to kind of browse the tags of the different projects that the group supports, and that's a good way to find out more about it.
Yes.
I think we got time for one more question, and as I haven't jumped in yet, I think I'll pose it. Thinking back to your own experiences in Georgia and in South Korea, and about kind of the moments that really captured the experience of service as a volunteer, and especially in that we're hoping that these recordings inspire others to say, I want to do that. Is there a story that you can share from your own experience that kind of allows people to understand how personally powerful it is to be part of the organization?
Sure, and I'll try to be very quick because I want to tell you two things. Our immediate past district governor for District 5450 is from Iran, and 2 years ago, when he heard about the partnership, and he was very supportive of it, he tracked down his Peace Corps teacher. He was taught by a Peace Corps volunteer years and years ago in Iran, and his former teacher lives in Southern California somewhere. I don't remember the exact location, but Abbas is our past district governor, and he was just very excited to be able to find his former Peace Corps teacher and support this partnership that brings two agencies that he really loves together. In regard to projects, there's a club, I don't mean to make this Colorado centric, but there's another club in the Denver area called Highlands Ranch, and they've been working consistently to start up libraries, working with Peace Corps volunteers in Costa Rica. And they now go every year to a different location and work with that volunteer to help create libraries, not only in that volunteer school, but other schools nearby. But they didn't stop there. They met with some Costa Rican educators that, because some of the Peace Corps volunteers were working in education service centers, and their job was to improve the curriculum. And now they've created the first IB program, International Baccalaureate program in Costa Rica. But again, it was a partnership between the Rotarians in Highlands Ranch and the Peace Corps volunteers in Costa Rica working together. So there's a lot of these type of stories that are on our website, and I think are good examples that whatever, if we just create the conditions to bring people together, we don't have to create all the ideas. They have great ideas and great insight. So I don't know if that answered your question exactly, but
it's a good answer regardless. So
okay.
I'm good. To all of those visiting us today, I want to thank you for taking in this recording. I want to thank Shags and Farheen for joining the recording. As always, our members who join recordings get an extra few minutes to talk with our cool speakers after we finish, and that's always fun and often we get to build on things that we wanted to have time for but didn't. But if you have watched this recording and you are on our page, our Silicon Valley Rotary page, we hope you'll continue to scroll down and leave a message in our discuss section, DISQUS, and interact with other people who have left comments. Feel free to leave a note, with a thought, building on what somebody else has put forward. Also, let us know you are here. There is an attendance form, and we hope that you will fill that out. If you are a visiting Rotarian, doing so successfully, that is, spelling your email address properly, will mean that you'll get an email that you can pass along to your club secretary to make up a miss. So with that, we'll finish up, and as we always do, we'll turn it back to the speaker for a final thought.
Well, I did thank you very much, Rustin, and everybody who's participated today. And I hope that you will treat me as a resource if you have future questions or would like to connect with Peace Corps or around any of the projects you see on our website. Going back to your question, though, Rustin, I didn't think I fully answered it. Since I did Peace Corps response in the country of Georgia just 2 years ago, it was great when I got there that there were a lot of Georgian Rotarians that I was able to connect with. So other people who do Peace Corps response, they go and they do develop friends through their coworkers or through their families that they live with. But I had even more connections because of Rotary. But likewise, those Rotary clubs had a lot of questions about Rotary. Rotary's has been around in Georgia, but it's been up and down. And I was able to help them connect with other Rotary clubs around the projects they were trying to do. And, I've encouraged Georgians to come to the convention. They had a good turnout in Hamburg. So, there's also a nice friendship when you do a Peace Corps response assignment with Rotary in that country. Hopefully there is Rotary in that. Rotary will be in that country. Hopefully you're going to a Peace Corps country that or a site where you have Rotary clubs nearby. So I don't know if that continue to answer your question, but again, please consider Peace Corps response. It's a great experience. You can get a lot accomplished with your skills that are needed in that country, and you have a lot of friends you can make easily through Rotary.
Excellent. We will have the link to the Peace Corps Response Program below the embed video in our meeting, and we hope people will follow it. We thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.